all of the major news stories made simple and easy for your listening pleasure. We'll break it down for you in keywords. For the segment, we're joined by Adam. Good morning.
Good morning, Lena.
I know you're a big golfer.
Yes. And so are you now.
No. No, I'm going to let the record stipulate that I know how to hit the ball.
You will be soon. You will be soon. Just give it time. You'll be enticed by
by what exactly?
By the charm of golf and all the outings.
That exactly there. That hesitation is why I'm having a hard time committing a little bit more of my time. But anyhow, I digress. I guess golf, yes. But what about camping? Is that something?
Camping, yeah. I enjoy camping.
Too? Do you think this
Not
is...
so much in Korea, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering if it's more heightened during this pandemic.
I don't know. I don't know if it's kind of like the active side of me, but... I like camping to be actual like camping where you set up your own tent in the wilderness without knowing what's around you, kind of like a Bear Grylls type thing.
Oh, I see. So you need it to be kind of a more challenge, as opposed to everything being kind of perked up and perfectly set up for you.
Yeah, which I suppose you can do in Korea, but you're a bit spoilt in Korea in terms of camping. I mean, it's not really camping. It's just setting up your own tent and finding your own. Well, not finding your own food. I won't go that extreme, but you know,
some do.
Yeah, but just in a place that's not reserved just for camping, if you will, with other campers around you. I mean, I like to be secluded and, I don't know, being from England, that's what we used to do. That's what we defined as camping. So, yeah.
I'm sensing a little bit of judgment. I kind of like it,
No, I'm
though.
not judging. No judgment there.
But guys, I mean, really, these are some of the big trends that have arisen, I think, during the pandemic for South Koreans particularly. Listeners, do you guys share this sentiment? Have you taken up on any new hobbies too? Let us know. All right, it's time for us to take a look at some of the major headlines this morning. So let's get started. This is our first keyword of the day.
More vaccines.
So after that little tricky situation with insufficient supplies, more vaccines are coming into Korea, helping speed up the country's vaccination drive. What's the latest, Adam?
Yeah, so the U.S. government's supply of this Johnson & Johnson's Janssen vaccine for 1 million people is expected to arrive on Saturday. This follows Washington's pledge to donate vaccines for Korean troops. So it is going to be mainly for those types of people. Now, the Janssen vaccines will be given to reservists, members of civil defense and those related to the country's defense and foreign affairs. Those aged under 30, though, will be excluded amid concerns over these kind of very rare blood clot side effects, but also very deadly. So they are taking precautions there. But reservations for the shot are fully booked. So if you are eligible and you haven't reserved a spot already, unfortunately, they are fully booked. That came just a day after the reservations opened, so they do seem to be very popular. Now, the US has also vowed to share vaccines with other countries as well. At least 19 million of the first batch of 25 million doses will be distributed among countries through COVAX. Meanwhile, from today until next Wednesday, those over 30 are only able to make reservations for so-called no-show vaccines through just the Naver and Kakao apps. So you won't be able to do it over the phone.
Or walk-ins, for example.
Or walk-ins, that's
so
right.
You got to do using your phone, especially if you're young. Yeah.
And it's only reservations for that day as well, just to take note. And from next Thursday, only people over the age of 60 will be able to book a spot. So younger people will unfortunately not be able to get them after that period. And this is all parts of efforts to get as much of the vulnerable population inoculated first.
All right, we're going to stay with the country's vaccination process. So this is our second keyword of the day.
Breakthrough infections.
So there has been reports of more so-called breakthrough infections, sparking concerns that even fully vaccinated aren't 100% safe. So what's the latest?
Yeah, so Korea has confirmed 5 more cases of the so-called breakthrough infections. That brings the total caseload to 9. The KDCA said that all the breakthrough infections were in those who had 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine. All of the 5 people are those aged between 70 and 80. So it seems to be a trend among the elderly population.
But do you think it's also because the Pfizer vaccine was initially allocated for, again, that vulnerable group, and that's reflected in the numbers for the time being?
Exactly, yes, that's right. And 3 of them are female and the other 2 are male. The KDCA said similar cases will increase, of course, as the country's vaccine rollout gains pace, as it is doing right now. It added that those who are fully inoculated still need to wear masks, so they shouldn't be letting their guards down too much. Health officials say that those who are classified as breakthrough infection cases have mild symptoms or are asymptomatic. So even if you've got a vaccine and you don't feel that unwell, then you could still potentially be open to infection. So don't let your guard down too much. Still practice the social distancing and all that stuff is what the health officials are saying.
Frankly speaking, for the foreseeable future, right? We've acclimated. So, I mean, keeping those, I think, hygienic habits might not be such a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, staying clean is never bad.
That too. Now that it's all very agreeable. All right, we're going to move on to our third keyword of the day.
Air Force scandal.
So there has been public uproar in the country over a recent sexual assault case in Korea's Air Force that led to the sudden and untimely death of the victim. President Moon Jae-in has also weighed in on the case. What did he have to say?
Yes, he ordered military investigators to deal strictly with the case, calling for a thorough probe. He said his heart aches to think of how much despair the victim must have felt. The Changwon-dae spokesperson Park Kyung-mi said the president also ordered the military to look into whether there have been any problems in the overall procedures so far of handling the case, including measures taken by a top-level commander. Now, that comes because the female officer who was found dead late last month in an apparent suicide, that came after she allegedly was sexually harassed by a male colleague inside a vehicle on the way back from a drinking session that apparently she was forced to attend. And she reported the incident to her senior officers the following day, but they are accused of having sought to hush up or cover up the incident. So that is the thing that has led to the uproar. I mean, there was anger already because of the sexual harassment itself, but because there was a kind of attempt to keep the case quiet among the top brass of her unit. That is the thing that sparked a public outroar. And ironically, apparently one of the top level of officers who tried to cover up the incident, apparently he himself also sexually abused the victim.
So she's also
earlier.
He's also the possible perpetrator.
Right. The lawyer of the family said that this victim had actually experienced 2 similar incidents before. So, of course, they seem to have piled up and unfortunately led to apparently her taking drastic measures. Yeah.
All right. This is especially, I think, call from the public to investigate thoroughly and to address a structural problem if this is the case, right? We're going to move on to our fourth keyword of the day.
Three's a crowd.
I've got to say, that's a pretty clever keyword. Good job.
Yeah.
A recent Japanese news report suggesting a 3-way summit between the leaders of Korea, the U.S., and Japan was planned alongside the Moon-Biden summit, but it was apparently eventually called off. So run us through the details.
Yeah, so this is just a report by Kyodo News citing sources familiar with Japan-U.S. relations, and it claims that Biden wanted Yoshihide Suga to join the potential 3-way summit after the two met in mid-April. But the paper says the plan was dropped over South Korean concerns that a meeting among the 3 leaders would steal the limelight from the Moon-Biden summit that would have been held on the same occasion. Now, the plan apparently came out of a desire on Washington's part to provide an opportunity for its key Asian allies to patch up their frayed ties. The US also wants to play up a tripartite partnership on such issues as Taiwan in a bid to ring-fence China with its allies and like-minded countries. That's according to Kyodo. And Kyodo said that for its part, Tokyo was ready to accept the US overtures in principle, but some within the Japanese government took a cautious stance toward another visit in such a short interval, with citing worsening public opinion against the Suga government at the moment over a set of measures to bring down the pandemic there, especially just ahead of the Olympics. Now, had the US, Japan, South Korea summit been held, a Moon-Suga summit might also have taken place. But Kyodo noted that some within within the Japanese government have been negative toward the two leaders meeting before Seoul was ready to present proposals acceptable to Tokyo over the string of issues that have raised tensions between the two neighbors.
So perhaps it was most strategic to not have this three-way sit-down.
Right. So basically, Kyoto is saying that if it was to happen, then the South Korean and US summit, the Moon-Biden summit, would not get as much attention. And also, that would mean that Moon and Suga will have to meet separately, and the Japanese side aren't really happy with that. I don't think the South Korean side would have been very happy either, especially as things are standing at the moment.
And with high tensions, is it best, with all these shared agendas and global community, to bring all that to light and talk about it when there is no fundamental agreeable middle, right?
Yeah.
All right, we'll leave it there for now. On to our fifth keyword of the day.
First international trip.
That sounds really odd for a president, but Joe Biden is set to embark on his first international trip since taking office. What can we expect?
Yeah, so the White House said Biden's first overseas trip will include meetings with the leaders of Turkey, the United Kingdom and Russia, as well as other world leaders as well. Next Thursday, Biden plans to travel to Europe, where he will participate in summits of the G7, NATO and the European Union. He'll also meet with England's Queen Elizabeth on June 13th, and he'll be accompanied by his wife, First Lady Jill Biden. Jill Biden will leave for Washington straight after that meeting with Queen Elizabeth. Now, Biden will then travel to Brussels for the NATO summit on June 14th, meeting with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and attend the US-EU summit there the following day. In Belgium, Biden will meet also with King Philippe and Prime Minister Alexander De Croo. The summit between Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin, that's the one everyone's looking out for, is scheduled for June 16th in Geneva. And also, while in Geneva, Biden will also meet with Swiss President Guy Parmelin and Foreign Minister Ignacio Cassis. The US President has meanwhile taken a break before the busy schedule. He's celebrating his wife's 70th birthday at their vacation home in Delaware as we speak, and they're expected to return to the White House on Friday.
So that's a very short trip.
Yeah.
All right, on to our last keyword of the day.
Crypto meeting.
Korean financial authorities are putting pressure on local cryptocurrency exchanges, and they have summoned the operators of such important exchanges, the biggest ones at least.
Yes, the Financial Services Commission has summoned the country's, very ominous sounding, but they have summoned the country's 20 digital coin exchange operators for a meeting that's happening today, in fact, to provide information and consulting on business reporting requirement procedures. This is the first official move by the FSC on regulating local cryptocurrency operators. Now, the 20 exchanges that have already been invited have already actually obtained the so-called Information Security Management System certification from the government. The ISMS certification is provided to companies that have met over 100 rigorous requirements for safely running their business operations. The government has set September as a deadline for business reporting of these exchanges, and the meeting is kind of being seen as a way to get the operators to quickly adhere to the deadline or actually meet it well in advance. Now, the FSC is reportedly planning to prepare more meetings with other exchanges that haven't yet earned this certification. And the meeting was organized as exchanges have begun to ask questions as well concerning the government's guidelines about business declarations and taxation. There's been a bit of confusion, a bit of concerns that it might not be fair for the consumer, the investors as well. So the meeting will kind of set the scene for these confusions and problems to be resolved.
And to address, I think, regulatory measures in a more timely fashion as opposed to kind of, sort of hoarding over all the non-existing regulations and start from scratch. I think it takes many steps to create regulations. It's important to have more of these meetings before setting new ones.
Exactly.
Anyhow, thank you very much, Adam, for a week's worth of coverage. I'll see you next week.
See you next week.
If you're listening to our program using the podcast service, just a reminder that we do go live Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Korea Standard Time. So tune in and help us make the show more informative by giving us your input. See you bright and early on Good Morning Seoul.